Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video, and we are over on Crystal Isles right now. It is an amazing map. They're keeping pretty much all of the concepts down and the size of the map and stuff like that from what I have been told. They're taking out a few tames, but when it comes to base locations, a lot of people are wondering, where can I go, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to go ahead and, do some base location tours of each of the areas. This is going to be about the, how do I say this properly, the Floating Isles area. It's a crazy, crazy location. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on so you can kind of see like the tames and stuff nearby, but these are like amazing floating islands. Yes, I'll have GCM mode on so I can kind of speed around this thing. I'm going to give you a full tour. I'm not going to like take things out. There are some amazing base spots in this thing, and I'll show you a couple of the ones that I have found so far. I mean, first off, the floating islands themselves are just bonkers. I mean, you're literally unable to get from one to another in order to actually rate anything unless you just drop from above. And that's, to me, that's amazing. So, all right, so here's the first isle. I think this is going to be an amazing base location. This is going to be a mid-size to larger size. Even small tribes could take this one pretty easily. There's no direct link access to it. And it's just a monster of a location. So I'm starting off in this actual location. The chords of it, just so you can see, I'll grab this guy out and the map. 40.8, 71.1, so you can kind of see where we are. It is a monstrous island. Yes, you can build on it. It is pretty nice. There's nothing like, I mean, you can see I can just toss this down right here. Pretty cool stuff. But these floating islands are going to be amazing. So there's a bunch of smaller ones nearby. I would say that you're going to want to either know who's up there or build up there first, and then you can kind of expand to these smaller ones and have like little outcroppings and stuff like that. But then, we move on to even this, like a little bit far away. So if someone built a fob up there on you, unless you knew somebody up there, if you had some allies up there and down here, it would be really hard to start hitting people on these floating islands. They are all just, amazing base locations because they're high points. They are just bonkers, in my opinion, that you can have these just pillars of the sky. I mean, it's amazing. They have all the resources you need nearby. Crystal, metal, water is straight down. You could even have like a little water base beneath you. You can see the tames swimming around down in there. Wood is nearby. Literally anything you need. But, this is kind of like the floating islands, if you want to call it that. They're all this good. They kind of line the surrounding area. There is a wyvern spawn nearby. These are not like the dangerous. These are crystal wyverns. They're not super dangerous. But I mean, even this, like look at this kind of base location up here. You have these flat surfaces that are insanely high up that you can build on, just like you see here. And this is definitely an alpha base spot right here. Look at this thing. It's a floating island with no way up that you could take over the entire island and not have any problems at all from anybody. This is Crystal Isles is going to be the new map where most people main because it's going to be hard to raid people on this map. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, just so you can have this location 40.1, 83.3, and I'm just going to keep going over these base locations and kind of exploring these little zones for you. But I mean, you can see, you get the point probably. You could have a huge tribe localized on this right here. And, I mean, you could just have a monstrous tribe. That'd be super cool. You have access to all the resources you need. And it just gets better and better and better the more you look at these islands. And then I'll show you some awesome rat holes in a minute here. But, again, just some crazy, crazy, crazy base spots. You can see that in here, it got lots of metal, water access. This is its own unique island system, this one right here. Mind you, this is a huge island. You would have to definitely be an alpha tribe to take over these two islands. But you'd have to have maybe 150 people to run them. I mean, just constant holding down of the island. 45.1, 76.9, and these things, again, are just bonkers. This is a crazy base spot. I think that, again, you're going to have some really big alpha tribes on these maps. And again, just so you can see, you cannot climb across this. This is just like cool-looking stuff, if you want to call it that. And here we are with another island. This one even has water access. This is probably my favorite one so far because you've got water on the pillar. You've got plant species Z up here for you to heal your dinos. You have different layers underneath, so you can have like different defensive capabilities in an island off to the side. This thing is crazy. I mean, look at this. Look at what you could have. This is just nuts. All right, so this location, just so you can see it, 46.2, 80.1 on your map, and it is a amazing base location. Even got like a little mini pillars up nearby. So you get the point. There are some monster awesome bases that you can build in this floating island region. But where it gets really cool for smaller players and smaller tribes and stuff like that is once you start kind of like adventuring down inside of these floating islands, especially these bigger ones, there are some awesome rat holes that you can find. Just in the side of this little pillar right here, you can stick, just so you can see it, cliff platies on this thing, and you can hide your base hilariously well with all this foliage in here. It is bonkers. I mean, see, we are right now inside of one of these islands, and it gets further and further. This is where the rock drake spawn is. So there won't be rock drakes on the official map, but you can get way up in the ceiling in this thing, and it would be really, really hard to hit somebody up in here. So that's just, you know, kind of cool. But you can see you can place these guys down in here, and it's pretty crazy stuff. There you go, just to show you. So you can have some bases up in the ceiling. Small tribes definitely could do that. Even down inside the actual cavern itself, there are some really dark pathways down here. And you can put some bases up inside something like this right here. This is a really long tunnel that comes out this backside. So you could build a little platform base right here that's almost impossible to raid, with a back entrance into the rock drake area where there won't be rock drakes. And that's a crazy little spot. So only 2 entrances right there, 46.2, 81.1. It's just an amazing spot with that entrance into there. But there won't be rock drakes again, so, you know, obviously keep that in mind. But look at this. You have a huge tube right here with this entrance over here, and that's it. And then you've got the other side where it's got to be rated by air. Pretty nice spot. So that's like, there's tons of locations. I'll keep showing them, don't worry. We got the up on the high side again. You can see where it kind of like goes up into the map up here. More crystal wyverns spawn down in this area, but this is kind of going to be, I don't think there's any really awesome base locations in this region, but when it comes to resources, you have them all over. The only thing that'll be a little bit difficult in this specific region will be wood. You'll probably have to go to the swamp zone in order to get that. But, I mean, there's metal, crystal, obsidian, everything you need, difficult endgame stuff-wise here. And then there's, straight beneath you, if you go straight down into the earth, you've got the access to all kinds of silica pearls. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name for a second. So, there's a little pathway up, and once you go up this pathway, you're going to notice a few things. One, we're on top of the huge floating island. You can see my little transmitter I have over there. There are lots of ways down into this island, but they all end you kind of in the same zone into this rock drake cavern, if you want to call it that. So no matter what you do, you kind of end up in the same spot. Underneath the rock drake cavern, however, there are loads of fancy schmancy little locations. You can see I'm kind of in water right there, so you can kind of swim. But if you find some of these rocks up here, you could get some pretty solid base locations on these rocks, and you can build on them. You just have to figure out the location. I've done a couple earlier. They're technically floor, so it's just when the game actually gets rendered in. You'll be able to build on these things and on the corners and actually use these as a location. And just so you can see, chords 48.6, 79.3, and pretty much this entire under region is an amazing little spot to have some sort of pillar base or something like that. And the only thing beneath you got that ocean. Would be really hard to raid somebody. I mean, you could technically build a tower up with a boat, but that's kind of cheesy anyways. And you run out of structure limit anyways, so it'd almost be impossible. Alright, so let's keep moving on, and I'll show you some more of these amazing spots. You can see this one's a little bit more of a PvE based location, but you would be centered in the middle of the entire region here. A huge flat zone, crystal spawns nearby, metal spawns nearby, plenty of tree access, tons of these little islands, stone for days, and it's a very nice little overall region you could take over. 48.4, 76.1. It's a really cool spot. I like this one a lot. More PvE, but still, you get the point. Could be pretty neato. But lots of room for expansion, so you can kind of move as you want in there. And that's just a good location. So there's, if you are playing in a PvP server, likely all those spots up there are going to be taken. So I would avoid building on the ground. A lot of people are going to try and do that. and a lot of people are going to be attacked from up above them. One of the best things you can do is kind of avoid these little floating ground bases, just because you don't want to, well, you don't want to get clapped. Let's be honest, nobody wants to do that. But oh well. You can kind of see where we started off over here. We're going over into the other floating island region, but let me show you a couple of smaller rat holes that I have found on this map. In order to find them, you kind of got to like move around inside the cavern. I showed you this one already. Not really a rat hole, but just a good base location where you can kind of live under the map. These are pretty close to the water down in here, but you can get to some pretty awesome chaotic spots down in here and build up inside this stuff or in the water, so on and so forth. You get what I'm trying to show you here. And there's some pretty hidden locations down in here that you could build even under the water. You can go up and under a lot of this stuff and build inside some of these pillars. You just have to find the right angles to do that. And then I'll show you the chords of that. 49.9, 83.5, and you can kind of like use your boats and stuff like that down here as a starting base location to have access to a lot of awesome stuff. So let's go ahead and keep going. I'm going to go ahead and show you we're just going to kind of like go in a little bit of a circle around this area. So this is kind of like a very popular location in when Crystal Isles ISO was released. Lots of flat zones, lots of tames, water is all over the place. Let me show you a amazing little location you can go to. So if you go down in here, obviously there's a rock drake nest right there. You can build in a lot of these little hidey holes behind it. So this location, 49.5, 82.6. And what you're going to do is you're going to go up above this nest right here. And you can see two little areas. One, you can drop down and boom, you have found yourself a little rat hole. There's a small area to enter right here. Small, you can probably get a trike through, maybe. You could build on platforms back in here. And then there's a small entrance from up top up here as well. So you can kind of get into this in multiple locations, but if you start off here, it would be really, really hard to hit somebody in this area. Cliff platforms will not work in this location, but you can build on the ground down here, as long as it's not on this wall, because this isn't considered floor at all. This green part is considered floor, though, so you could easily build like a little starter base back inside of this behind the rock drake nest. Really cool spot. Again, 49.2, 82.2. Pretty awesome little location. And you kind of got a couple little hidey holes back in here. You can't go super far back into them, but you can kind of move around a little bit to position yourself a little bit better. There are a few more spots in here that I'll show you. You can kind of move around. There's one going to be an amazing one. I'll show you that one in a second. That's up inside of an artifact cave. But, I mean, you can see lots of little cracks that you can kind of put like a small crafting base inside of for the startup of this game that people will have a hard time locating you with. Especially behind these waterfalls. Tons and tons and tons of room behind these waterfalls. Even at the base down here where you can have water tames and build. Just so you can see, it doesn't count right here. You will have to use... Okay, lag, thank you. You will have to use cliff platforms in order to actually build on this area right here. But because you're inside that waterfall, it does have quite a bit of capability to build inside this thing. I'll land on it so you can see. But it's pretty hidden because you're behind 3 different unique waterfalls. Just like that, it'd be very, very, very hard to find somebody back in there. Even building on this little land platform right here, kind of moving back into this zone, you'd be pretty solid to do that as well. This chord, just so you can see it, 50.4, 84, lots of capabilities, lots and lots of special stuff you could do back inside that zone. And then we're going to keep moving up into this region, and this is where you can find an artifact cave inside this zone right here. We're going to go and crank up our gamma just a touch so you can actually see what's going on. Again, you can see all kinds of little cracks in this region where you can kind of just hide and have a temporary base while the Crystal Isles is starting. Bunch of safe little zones, even like back in this region, right back in here. This is an amazing little corner you can build in. Just stuff like this, 49.9, 80.8, just so you can see that zone, and there's the entrance to it. Lots and lots in this little cavern. Because these floating islands are this style of rock, it's just, you know, how it is. That you have a lot of locations in here that you could build, and corners and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think that there's going to be some really, really cool bases back in this kind of region. You can kind of see, please let me down. Thank you. You can kind of get pretty far back into this one right here. You can't get very much further than I am right now. But again, if you just put like a foundation, you can easily hide inside this zone right here. And this is just a little flat ledge that gives you access to all kinds of different stuff. So chords of this, 49.5, 83.2, pretty awesome little spot. So, you know, pretty cool. All right, so we're going to keep moving around just a little bit more. You can see, again, waterfall zones have some awesome building spots. Here is a little hidden entrance to a really, 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 really nice, monstrous cave. Okay? When I say monstrous, I mean this cave is huge. Tons of building locations. You can see that I'm not supposed to be up in here, but you can easily fit bases back in this thing. I have yet to find, and I have looked around for a little bit, another entrance to this cave except for the one we just came in from. So this is going to be the Alpha Cave. This thing is monstrous. I mean, we're talking enormous. There's so many levels. You got water, you've got all kinds of access. It's hard to get into this. All kinds of nooks and crannies to hide your stuff in. And I still have only found one way in. So that's kind of unique. Right over here, behind this water, you've got an access point. And here's the giant crystal cavern, I'm going to call it, I guess. I don't even know what to call it. Crystal Cavern is what I'm naming this thing for now. I'm sure it might have a name, but look at this. Even if it's like someone's in here in some spot you can't build in, you can find a whole bunch of locations you can. Even smaller tribes, like hiding in little corners back in here, if they end up fixing this cave, is going to be insane. Like, this is huge. This base is enormous. Even, I guess, you could be any size tribe and hold this entire cave, because here's your entrance. Right here. This is how you get into this thing. And you just have a couple of kill walls, kill boxes around this entrance, and you are good to go. Chords are 48.0, 83.5, amazing spot. And that's just kind of how it works. And you'd be right next to an artifact. So there's that base location, as you can see right in this little, beneath that giant crystal, go down and into it. It's crazy. If you go up to the highest level, this is where the artifact cave is, very nearby. Unofficial, you're going to be able to build some awesome spots in this cave, unless they take that ability away. Lots of little locations that you can actually kind of hide behind in corners. Up in here has been a pretty cool one that I've seen people build in before. Lots of little nooks and only one way in right here. It'd be very difficult to get into this spot if someone had like a good little design, defensive design right here, especially because it's in a cave, so don't forget that. You can quite literally go to almost any corner of this artifact cave and find a base location. I still think my favorite base location is that huge cave. But, you know, I'll make a video on that one later on, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that people can do with that cave. So, here's the artifact down in here next to the dragon. He kind of looks down at this artifact of the brute. I think it's the brute? No, it's the pack. This one's the pack. So, a lot of capability in here. You got glow pets. It goes all the way down. There's dead dragons, bunch of unique little things. And there's a couple of different entrance points, but pretty cool little spot. That, just so you know, 52.6, 79.2. Again, amazing locations. But I still think that waterfall location that I found earlier is best. Lots of rock drake spawns out here, but I don't think you're going to be able to get any of these eggs because they're taking them all off, which sucks. But still, oh well. Anyways, hopefully this spot helps you. This is just the Crystal Isles Islands. I will do other base tours of the different locations and kind of explore them a little bit. But other than that, teach out.